Hi, this is Trevor, and welcome back to my kitchen table. I'm still working out some things about doing these videos and putting them together. So bear with me as technical things will evolve. And I love being able to let you see me, so you know you've got Trevor here, and then having the overhead shot of the camera and the cards, which I'll get to in a moment. And more information about how I work, etc., is on my website at trevorsense.com. I have some colleagues that I love sharing with, and we kind of co-mentor one another. And we were discussing recently about how in readings do we comment on what is affecting everyone collectively, the times we're moving through. And I think a lot of times when people are coming to see me, they're very focused on their own issues. And I'm not a prophet. I'm not somebody who's trying to read um, things about political leaders or things of that nature. I mean, sometimes those things are impactful, and I have to talk about what comes through. But generally, the work I'm doing is more interpersonal, I guess you could say transpersonal, and it is about relating what the cards can represent to our own inner work. But we're all connected and we're all affected. And, the things I've seen over the years, like I was reading when the AIDS epidemic started, and that was impacting part of my own personal community really strongly. And there was so much uncertainty in the world. And then I remember also the Gulf War was around about that time, and all of the reactive stuff about that. But also, fortunately, speaking of kitchen tables, sitting around kitchen tables with my mother and my aunts and their friends that we called aunts and uncles, even though they weren't necessarily blood, but they were kin, they were kindred. And the stories they'd share and relate, some of the stories my aunts had about World War II. And in some ways, it was great. They got to drop out and get jobs. And more women entered the workforce than ever before. And that was a time of challenge, uncertainty, fear. But also, as young women, there was parts of it that were exciting. And I love being able to hear that. And it helps me to understand and relate to things. I was out recently and I was at a brunch with a bunch of guys and talking with my friend Jim, who I've known since the 80s, around about the time where my career started. And we were talking about, everything the world has moved through. And when COVID started, I called up Jim and I said, "What's this like?" He says, "Just like the 80s." He says, "But we didn't get to take time off work and take CERT payouts. We had to go to work and act like nothing was happening while our friends died." So that was challenging, but it gives us the opportunity to pause and go, wait a minute, this feels familiar. The circumstances are different, but the energy, where have I seen this before? This reactiveness, this challenging stuff. And to tap into that is very, very powerful. Also during COVID, there was somebody I know was complaining, like, "Oh, we have to keep washing our hands and washing our hands." And another friend just said, "Excuse me, please. Do you know where I come from? There's not clean drinking water." And this was here in Manitoba. And there's some parts of this province that are still having like boil water advisories and things like that. And now we have the wildfires and we have the wildfire smoke that is affecting people. And people are having to evacuate. And there's a lot of that uncertainty that's going on. So I want to be conscientious to that. I recently did a little post on my Instagram and Facebook page, and I think I'm going to try and do it once a month and see how it goes. And it's a community support post and people can comment and add a link to what they're doing, or if they're having like a fundraiser, or if they're doing something along those lines. So I think that's something, that's the kind of thing that my family, my aunties and my mom and my uncles would have approved of. So, um, and my brothers, I gotta say, and my cousins. So, um, thinking of all that, and I'm gonna cut the cards now. Hold on. I'm gonna just switch cameras. Hold on. There we go. I love this overhead camera. All right, because I've shuffled the cards and now I'm gonna cut them. And again, and again. There we are. What do we have? Oh, the Wheel of Fortune. Wow. Well, I think that kind of ties in to some of what I was saying. Um, but it's not about luck so much for me. Let's remember that a wheel, like a roulette wheel, has this thing called centrifugal force. The more it spins, the more there's an outward thrust. And around the edge of the wheel, there's these scary figures. There's a sphinx, there's a serpent, there's Anubis. Um, these are these uh, kind of fearsome aspects. But beyond them, there's these angelic figures, the ox, the lion, the eagle, and the angel, and they all have their books open. It's like they're learning. And uh, I mean, there's references in esoteric language in the symbolism. You could Google it, and you'd hear that it's partly like a reference to Ezekiel's wheel. And I love where there's explanations for these symbols. But the cards are also designed to just speak to us. And I remember when I was a little kid, on the playgrounds, we had those merry-go-rounds that you pushed, and it was a lot of fun, but it was also a little dangerous. That's why they eventually got rid of them. But if you were sitting at the very center of that push merry-go-round, you didn't go flying off, but you might lose your lunch. And on the outside, wow, when that thing got going really fast, there was that outward thrust. Again, centrifugal force. So let's think that maybe the learning that's going on, the co-learning of ourselves and our higher nature, is what's generating that spin, that thrust of the wheel. But sometimes when we come to a certain point beyond what's familiar, fear might cause us to slow down, to stop the wheel, or to let it wind down a bit. And then it can allow us to get better centered. Interesting, that word centered. And I think sometimes when the wheel is reversed, as I turned it over, that can be devolution, that we are devolving rather than evolving. It's ebb and flow, but I think that this is telling us in either case that it's a time where we have to be centered, where we can draw inspiration, where we can know, when some of us pray in a traditional sense and say, Thy kingdom come, it means it's all still a work in progress. And I love that somebody said, the maker's hand is still upon the clay. So be centered and try not to go spinning off. And I hope everyone is having a good remainder of summer. And let's just be mindful of what everyone is moving through. I'm coming back to you now to say goodbye. And check in. And I look forward to hearing from you. Information about how to book a reading in person or online over Zoom is available on my website at trevorsense.com. Take care. Bye for now.